And welcome to Hannity. So Donald Trump blasts Hillary Clinton in a major speech today, highlighting her numerous scandals, her failures at the State Department, and, of course, her history of corruption. Tonight, for the hour, we're going to have reaction to Trump's epic takedown of his Democratic rival. Now, we'll also show you Mr. Trump's plan for his first 100 days in office if he wins the White House. But first, the presumptive Republican nominee did not mince words and had a blistering assessment of Hillary Clinton. Take a look.
Hillary Clinton. And as you know, most people know, she's a world-class liar. The other candidate in this race has spent her entire life making money for special interests, and I will tell you, she's made plenty of money for them, and she's been taking plenty of money out for herself. Hillary Clinton has perfected the politics of personal profit and even theft. She ran the State Department like her own personal hedge fund, doing favors for oppressive regimes. She believes she's entitled to the office. Her campaign slogan is, "I'm with her." You know what my response is to that? I'm with you, the American people. No Secretary of State has been more wrong, more often, and in more places than Hillary Clinton. Her decisions spread death, destruction, and terrorism everywhere she touched.
Here with reaction from the Trump Organization, Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump. Good to see you. How are you, sir?
Sean.
As always. World-class liar, most corrupt person ever to seek the presidency, used the State Department as a personal hedge fund, you know, went through really chapter and verse on a lot of issues we talk about, but a lot of issues, too, the media's been ignoring.
Yeah. Well, it's true. They have been ignoring it. And I was so proud of him. I was front row today, and honestly, he was so humble. He was direct. He spoke to the problems, and listen, the country's fed up of this corruption. It's crazy. I mean, here's somebody that between 2007, 2014 made $150 million, all while being Secretary of State. I mean, how do you do that as a government employee? I mean, you're supposed to be doing a job. You're supposed to be, looking after the interests of the United States of America. Instead, you're profiting off of it, and I think he's 100% right. I mean, the corruption is so wrong, Sean.
He said he'd end the special interest monopoly in Washington. He talked about, how much money she got from speeches, but where she got speeches, where she was given the money. Sure. We were talking about Wall Street companies, big banks, big insurance companies, and I think even more corruptly, foreign governments, the money that the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Library has gotten from countries like Saudi Arabia. I'll even put it up on the screen. I've been pointing out these are countries that abuse women, gays, lesbians, Christians, and Jews.
And what's more, it's bad enough that you're a government employee taking money from other countries. It's so much worse when you're Secretary of State, and it's so much worse when they're oppressive regimes. And Sean, this is one of the reasons my father's running. He doesn't need this job. He doesn't need to run for president. He has a beautiful life and a wonderful life. He sees this nonsense happening. He sees a $150 billion Iran deal, which is crazy. I mean, we're giving $150 billion to a country that hates our guts. Oh, he sees all the problems. He sees this corruption. The Clinton Foundation. Listen, Charity Navigator, one of the leading rankers of charities, they won't even rate the Clinton Foundation. That's how bad their expense ratios are. I mean, it's true corruption.
How do you claim the mantle as a champion of women's rights, gay rights, lesbian rights, religious freedom, as Hillary does, take money from countries that execute gays and lesbians, that tell women how to dress, tell them they can't go to work or school unless a man approves, tells them they can't drive a car, they can't leave a house without a male relative, and never offer any criticism until your father embarrassed them last week and then gave minor criticism? Yeah. What does that say about her?
Well, listen, it's ultimate hypocrisy. I think another thing that's crazy is, the Clinton Foundation, right? A woman at the Clinton Foundation, executive at the Clinton Foundation, if you're female, makes $83,000 less than a male at the Clinton Foundation. And then she's out there talking about
Donald Trump did that.
Equal pay for women and men, which is great and which is right and which is true and everything else, but she doesn't abide by the things that she preaches, and that's so sad.
One of the things that I have been highlighting that really makes me nervous, our National Director of Intelligence, James Clapper, our FBI Director, Comey, our Assistant FBI Director, Steinbach, Obama's former Special Envoy to defeat ISIS, now the CIA Director, the Chairman of the House Homeland Security, have all said that the refugee population will be infiltrated by ISIS and terrorist organizations. Hillary wants to increase that number that Obama's allowing in by 550%.
Sure.
Your father talked about this. Let's roll that tape.
Perhaps the most terrifying thing about Hillary Clinton's foreign policy is that she refuses to acknowledge the threat posed by radical Islam. In fact, Hillary Clinton supports a radical 550% increase in Syrian refugees coming into the United States. Under her plan, we would admit hundreds of thousands of refugees from the most dangerous countries on earth with no way to screen who they are, what they believe, where they come from.
Eric, I view that as they're willing to gamble with the lives of Americans and ignore our top intelligence officers.
If you have one person in those hundreds and hundreds of thousands of refugees, one person who's bad, you can't let them into this country. We saw what happened in California. We saw what happened in Brussels. We saw what happened on 9/11. Right? We just saw what happened in Orlando, the worst shooting in the history of this country. You can't let a single bad person into this country.
Why would they be willing to risk the lives of Americans and ignore these very smart people?
It baffles me. It defies all common sense. And by the way, all the while where we have 56% unemployment in inner cities within minority groups, the African American population, the Latino population, 56% unemployment. Right? And despite that, you want to bring hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people.
By the way, it costs $20,000 a refugee. 20 grand. That's just the beginning. Let me also, your dad went very hard after her record. A lot of liberals, a lot of people on the left championed Hillary's record as Secretary of State. Well, Donald Trump took issue with that. Let's watch what he said.
In 2009, before Hillary Clinton was sworn in, it was a different world. In just 4 years, Secretary Clinton managed to almost single-handedly destabilize the entire Middle East. Thanks to Hillary Clinton, Iran is now the dominant Islamic power in the Middle East and on the road to nuclear weapons. Hillary Clinton's support for violent regime change in Syria has thrown the country into one of the bloodiest civil wars anyone has ever seen, while giving ISIS a launching pad for terrorism against the West. Hillary Clinton's tryout for the presidency has produced one deadly foreign policy disaster after another.
Think about this. They got it wrong with the Muslim Brotherhood leader, Mohammed Morsi, who once referred to the Israelis as descendants of apes and pigs. They gave him tanks and F-16s. Got it wrong. Hillary was negotiating with Iran. They literally, Ramadi, Fallujah, Tikrit, and Mosul, they were in our territory. They gave a date to pull out. Now it created a vacuum both in Syria and Iraq for ISIS. Libya they got wrong. Is there any part, where does she say she had any success?
Listen, I don't think there's any foreign policy that she's gotten right. I mean, none. She could have flipped a coin, and I think she could have been better off. But aside from destabilizing the Middle East and all the problems that that's created, and ISIS and everything else, it's also cost this country, $4 or $5 trillion. Right? They're building the new Tappan Zee Bridge just north of here. Yeah. Right? It's a $4 billion project. You see how big and beautiful and expansive this bridge is. And then you see us spend $4 or $5 trillion fighting wars that we haven't won. Oh, in fact, we've only made the situation worse.
Well, we actually won the wars, but then they become politicized. Then we pull out early and don't finish the job, and then you have to explain to mothers and fathers why their sons died.
Sure.
I mean, that is a national disgrace from my perception. As a matter of fact, Trump read a letter from your dad, read a letter from the mother of a slain policeman killed by an illegal. Now, this is really, this issue has propelled him into this presidential race, and this is the moment.
Let me share with you a letter our campaign received from Marianne Mendoza. Hillary Clinton, who already has the blood of so many on her hands, is now announcing that she is willing to put each and every one of our lives in harm's way. An open-door policy to criminals and terrorists to enter our country. Hillary is not concerned about you or I. She is only concerned about the power of the presidency and the power that it would bring. She needs to go to prison to pay for the crimes that she's already committed against our country.
You know, I have interviewed, Eric, so many mothers and fathers of people killed by illegal immigrants. I actually have, there's a picture of this officer. Yeah. And another example, one after another. There were 5 examples in the newspaper today. Yeah. About illegal immigrants creating crimes, people dying.
It truly affects him. And, I mean, as I go on the campaign trail with him, I've met Jamil Shaw, I met his parents, I met Kate Steinle's family. I mean, so many of these amazing families whose lives are now ruined. I mean, they lost their kid. That's everything to them. I mean, it's absolutely everything. Their families have been destroyed, all because of sanctuary cities, all because of illegal immigration, all because of politicians that turn a blind eye to a problem that we're having. They're not willing to address it. They're not willing to take care of it. They're not willing to talk about it. It's so sad. I mean, it's tearing the fabric of this country apart, and it's torn the fabric of those families
This
apart.
is really, though, becoming a choice election, isn't it? In other words, Hillary won't build the wall. Hillary will appoint liberal justices. Your dad has given the names of conservative justices. On the economy, your dad has been very clear. We need lower taxes, less bureaucracy, regulation from the federal government. He has talked about eliminating Obamacare. She would keep Obamacare. On schools, he'd give it back to the states. This is really a choice election. There are two clear different visions here. So I'll give you the last word.
His is America first. It's very simple. That's why he's doing it. Again, he doesn't need to do this. His is America first. We need to put America first. We want to make America great again. We need to fix the problems, and we're not going to fix it with these corrupt politicians.
Did you go to Washington with your dad?
Certainly one of them. Listen, I'm going to be running the company, but if
You're going to be running the company?
If he ever needed anything, I would be there in a heartbeat. I believe in this cause. I believe in his mission so much, and I believe in him. He's been the best father in the world.
I think Don Jr. is going to get into politics. I'm just reading the tea leaves here.
He's great, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure now. I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking you might follow him in as well.
We're passionate about it. We're passionate about it because we care about this country. This country's given our family everything. We care about this country. That's why our father's doing it. I mean, it's just why our father's doing it.
Eric Trump, good to see you.
Thanks.